Hello students. Today we are starting chapter number 7, Glimpses of India. And this chapter has further been divided in three parts. Number 1, a baker from Goa. Number 2, Kurk. And number 3, tea from Assam. So students, today we will do first part of this chapter, that is a baker from Goa. So now let's start. A baker from Goa. This is a pen portrait of a traditional Goa village baker who still has an important place in his society. So the chapter revolves around a Goa village baker, traditional Goa village baker, and he has maintained his significance, his importance even in the present society. Our elders are often heard reminiscing nostalgically about those good old Portuguese days, the Portuguese and their famous loaves of bread. The author says here that he has often heard his elders, his parents, his forefathers remembering those old days of Portuguese days when Portuguese had ruled over the city of Goa. He remembers those days. He remembers the Portuguese and their famous loaves of bread. Also, he remembers the loaves of bread. Loaves of bread means the bread that is baked. Also, he remembers the baked bread of Portuguese. Those eaters of loaves might have vanished, but the makers are still there. Now also he says that those eaters of loaves means here Portuguese. Although they have left the Goa city, but still they are remembered because the makers are still there, the maker of loaves of bread. We still have amongst us the mixers, the molders, and those who bake the loaves, because still there are the people who bake the breads. They are the mixers, the molders. The molders means the persons giving bread a particular shapes, and those who bake the loaves. So those people who bake the breads are still residing in Goa. Those age-old, time-tested furnaces still exist. And also the author says here that those furnaces that were used a long time before by the Portuguese are still existing here in Goa. The fire in the furnaces has not yet been extinguished. Extinguished means stopped, ceased. And also he says that the fire in the furnaces has not been stopped. Means still the fire is burning there and breads are baked, breads are made. The third and jingle of the traditional baker's bamboo heralding his arrival in the morning can still be heard in some places. Heralding means announcing. Also he says that the sound of the traditional baker's bamboo, as in the olden times, the baker used the bamboos to make the sound, and also he says that in the present time also, the arrival of the bakers can still be heard in some places of Goa, and it is the sound of the bamboo. Maybe the father is not alive, but the son still carries on the family profession. These bakers are even today known as padder in Goa. Padder means in Portuguese language, the bakers were called padders. Now he says that maybe this profession is opted from generation to generation, means the fathers are not still alive, but their children are carrying this profession, and these bakers are even today called padder in Goa. They are called baker in Goa. During our childhood in Goa, the baker used to be our friend, companion, and guide. Now the author remembers his childhood days when he was a child and he lived in Goa. He says here that the baker used to be his friend. He and his friend, his companion and guide. Means here the author and his friends. Now he says that in the childhood, when he was a child, in his childhood days, when he was living in Goa, the baker used to be their friend, companion and guide. He used to come at least twice a day, and for the 2 times in a day he came. Once when he set out in the morning on his selling round, and then again when he returned after emptying his huge basket. The baker came to them for the two times, once in the morning when he went for the selling ground, and then again when he returned after emptying his huge basket. After completing his work, when he came back, then again he was seen in the streets of Goa where the author lived. The jingling thud of his bamboo woke us up from sleep, and we ran to meet and greet him. And so the author woke up in early in the morning from the sleep when he heard the sound of the bamboo that was brought by the baker. And then the author woke up. He would run to meet and greet him. Why was it so? Was it for the love of the loaf? Not at all. The loaves were bought by some Pasquine or Vestine, the maid servant of the house. Then he says that was it because he loved the loaf, he loved the baked bread. That's why he ran to meet the bakers. Then he says that it was not at all because the loaves were bought only by Pasquine or Vestine, who were the maid servant of the house. Maid servant of the house was called Pasquine or Vestine. The loaves were bought by only them. What we longed for were those bread bangles which we chose carefully. Sometimes it was sweet bread of special make. Now the author says here that he waited for the baker because he wished those bread bangles. And he chose them, and this was the sweet bread of special make. Means the sweet bread was made of special designs, and these were the designs of bangles. So to purchase these bread bangles, he went towards the baker. He went to meet the baker. That's why he waited for him very eagerly. The baker made his musical entry on the scene with the jang jang sound of his specially made bamboo staff. Staff means stick. The entry of the baker was very musical because whenever he would enter, the bamboo stick would make a sound of jang jang. One hand supported the basket on his head, and the other banged the bamboo on the ground. And he was busy with both his hands. He would be busy with both the hands. One hand he would be supporting the basket that would be kept on the head, and with the other hand he would be carrying the bamboo, and he would make the sound of the bamboo while sticking on the ground. He would greet the lady of the house with good morning, and then place his basket on the vertical bamboo. And then he would start his day by greeting the lady of the house, and he would wish them good morning, and then he would place his basket on the vertical bamboo. We kids would be pushed aside with a mild rebuke, and the loaves would be delivered to the servant. Now, the author says that because the author was a child at that time, and he says that he and his friends would be pushed aside with a mild rebuke, they would be scolded, and the loaves would be delivered only to the servant. But we wouldn't give up. We would climb a bench or the parapet and peep into the basket somehow. But anyhow, they would manage to see inside the basket. They would climb a bench or they would stand on the parapet. Parapet means a railing, a platform. They would stand on a railing and they would start looking into the basket. I can still recall the typical fragrance of those loaves. Still, he remembers that fragrance of loaves. Loaves for the elders and the bangles for the children. The loaves were meant for the elders, and the bangles, that was the shape of bread. The shape, very beautiful shape in bangles. The shape of the bread of bangles would be taken by the children. Then we did not even care to brush our teeth or wash our mouths properly. And why should we? Now the author says here that he would take the bread, he would start eating the bread without brushing his teeth and without washing the mouths. And why should we? Who would take the trouble of plucking the mango leaf for the toothbrush? Because for this they would have to go through a trouble, because for the toothbrush they had to pluck the mango leaf and the mango leaf was used as a toothbrush at that time, so they had to pluck the mango leaf for brushing their teeth. But now they would not care to brush the teeth. They would start eating the bread without washing their mouths and without brushing the teeth. And why was it necessary at all? The tiger never brushed his teeth. Hot tea could wash and clean up everything so nicely after all. Now he says, he compares to himself with the tiger, the animal tiger, as he says that the tigers have never brushed their teeth before they take anything, so they would also not brush their teeth, and they would take the hot tea that would wash and clean up everything so nicely. Marriage gifts are meaningless without the sweet bread known as the bowl, just as a party or a feast loses its charm without bread. Now also he says that says here the importance of the bread. Even he says that marriage gifts were meaningless without the sweet bread, and the sweet bread was known as the bowl. And also, as a party or a feast loses its charm without bread. Even if there would be different occasions, parties, feast, a great meal, they all would lose its charm if there is not bread, if it is without any bread. Not enough can be said to show how important a baker can be for a village. Now, also he says there that a baker was very much important for a village. The lady of the house must prepare sandwiches on the occasion of her daughter's engagement. And whenever there would be the engagement of the daughters, the ladies of the house would start preparing sandwiches on the occasion. Cakes and bolinhas. Bolinhas is also the another name for coconut cookies. Cakes and bolinhas are a must for Christmas as well as other festivals. And it was must to prepare cakes and bolinhas for the Christmas and on the another occasions also, or another festivals also. Thus the presence of the baker's furnace in the village is absolutely essential. So the baker's furnace means the baking of the bread was very much essential in the village. Now here he tells in this para, the author tells the importance of the bakers. He says here that without bakers there was no occasion, no festival, because the sweet breads made by the bakers were very much important dish to be kept in the marriages or other festivals. The baker or bread seller of those days had a peculiar dress known as the kabai. And in those days, in the old days when Portuguese lived there in Goa, they had a different dress. They had very peculiar, strange dress, and it was known as kabai. It was a single piece, long frock reaching down to the knees. And these dresses were of knee length, and they were the long frock. In our childhood, we saw bakers wearing a shirt and trousers which were shorter than full length ones and longer than half pants. Now, the author says about his childhood, he had seen bakers wearing a shirt and trousers were shorter than the full length, but they were longer than half pants. Even today, anyone who wears a half pant which reaches just below the knees invites the comment that he is dressed like a pedder. Pedder means a baker. Now also he says that even today also, if anyone is seen wearing a half pant and which reaches just below the knees, and he is commented, and it is said that he is dressed like a pedder, like a baker. The baker usually collected his bills at the end of the month. Monthly accounts used to be recorded on some wall in pencil. Now, here in this para, the author is saying how he collected his bills. He says here that the author often collected his bills at the end of the month, and he kept his records on some wall in pencil. As today we keep all the records in a book or in a notebook, but at that time he kept his record on some wall, and it was written in pencil. Baking was indeed a profitable profession in the old days, and it was a very much profitable profession in those days. As we have read earlier, that baking of bread was very much important even at the time of occasions also. In all the festivals, it was must to bake. So this profession was very much profitable. The baker and his family never starved. And Baker and his family had never starved, they have never left with hunger. He and his family and his servants always looked happy and prosperous. And the families who belonged to the baker's family, they always looked very much happy and they were prosperous. Their plump physique was an open testimony to this. Plump physique means pleasantly fat body. Open testimony means it is a public statement about a character or quality. So it is said that those people who have a plump physique, who are very much fat, who are well built body, they belong to the baker's family because it shows that they belong to a very prosperous family. Even today, any person with a jackfruit like physical appearance means here well built body, is easily compared to a baker. And even today also in Goa, it is said that any person who is a well built person, who has a well built body, is compared to a baker because it is said that the families who belong to the baker's family were rich, they were prosperous, they were happy, so that's why they were fat also. So it is said that even today, those people who have a well built body, who are fat, physically fat, it is said that they belong to a baker and they are compared to a baker. So, students, this is all about the first part of the seventh chapter, a baker from Goa. In this chapter, we have read about a baker, and I hope you have understood this chapter. And in the next class, we will start the second part of this chapter, Glimpses of India, that is Coorg. Till then, goodbye and have a nice day.